Aku udah start recording. Nanti let me just cut it.
Okay, hello, my name is Salifah Bianca Adwina from Universitas Islam Indonesia. Right now I'll be speaking as the member of government. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, we as the feminist movement believe that women should be women and there is no standard that should define them or force them to change. And that's where we're going to start. Before getting to any of the substantives, 2 point of rebuttals, one on the opening position idea of like the future inclusivity in K-pop in terms of like encouraging more like dark-skinned or like LGBTQIA idols to join the industry. We're going to say that no, this is never going to happen because of 2 things. One is that K-pop industry is like an industry that is talent reliant, right? So this kind of issues or like this kind of urgency can easily be overshadowed by larger than life appearance of idols and like the good music that they are creating. But second, we believe that the industry is at the very base is dominated by Korean staff who are proud of their appearance and who will not be forced to change, right? Like take a look at an example of like Johnny, Mark from NCT or like Vernon from SPT. These people, despite being like a foreigner, they have to incorporate like Korean features or like East Asian features to begin with. So this is the kind of rent. But on the next layer, on the idea of like big agencies like SM, JYP, they're never gonna change. Why? Because their idols are tied to standards that are now ruling the trend or like setting the trend itself. But on the smaller companies, these companies are never going to incorporate this kind of idea because at the very base they are already overshadowed by the power of these big companies, and thus it is not favorable for them to do this in terms of competition. Second rebuttal on their idea of how then like by supporting this K-pop industry can actually take like African music industry or like black skin industry, etc. We say no. That first of all, because not all African people are black, right? So to generalize a race and like their skin color is very problematic to begin with. And the second layer on this is that the fact that that K-pop is already pretending the idea of like white is beautiful or like monoliths are beautiful is already like very hampering the possibility of these industries to begin with, right? And then the last assertion on this is that we believe that black people, black skinned people, people who are not white or like adhering to beauty standard does not actually need beauty standard, right? These people already have lots of urgencies that they have to face, like for example, the killing of Breonna Taylor, or like how they are not equal in the front of law. These are like bigger things that they have to address, right? And even if yes, we believe that their idea of like promoting like K-pop, etc., is not the biggest urgency, right? But rather we should tackle the exploitation caused by K-pop industry in itself, and there's that. Okay, so a few points of clarification. One on the opening pages idea of like feminism, right? We believe that feminism's main interest is divided into a few layers. One is that they want to regard women as women. Second is that they want to acknowledge women in the form of law. But third, they also want to acknowledge women in like environmental settings or like pursuing things that they want to pursue, etc. Notice how like OG never explained to like what kind of feminism they are talking about. So we want to redefine what kind of people or like what kind of society the feminism is actually concerned with. So what do we want in like CG is that we believe that K-pop is actually hampering more towards women in developing countries. That's A. But second, we believe that feminism in these countries are already very poor. They do not even fulfill like the very basic needs of women of accepting that women are also humans, etc. So we believe that that's why in like these developing countries, K-pop is actually backlashing with feminism in itself, and this is what we wanna fight for. So this is what we believe like the debate should be about, right? Like how K-pop actually harms feminism in developing countries. But our mechanism is going to be somewhat different than the OG. We actually want limited opposition, right? We want to limit our opposition until the feminism in developing countries move towards like the second phase as like the developed countries. We want people to be free to like K-pop because everyone now has like a better judgment of women, etc. And our second goal is very simple. We just want to oppose the K-pop industry in itself, and our goal is to first see the progress of feminism in developing countries, and second, to change like the views of people in society and not change the K-pop industry directly. 2 point of arguments. One on the idea of like urgency. We believe that the way K-pop operates itself is very problematic, right? For example, female idols have to like go on diets, right? For example, like Jonghyun, they also have to perform like very short skirts that you can even see like they're discovered. We believe also that like for male idols, they are already portrayed as like very particularly masculine, and they're pushed to be fit like a one hole or 10 so they diet, etc. This doesn't allow them to express themselves freely or to even cry, etc. But last assertion on like this example is that we believe that even like in LGBTQIA plus representative, they are actually utilized only as promotional means, right? Like we're baiting in like Sogi Arin's monster or like shipping culture, etc. But when an idol actually comes out in real life, they are bashed or even kicked out of the company. So this is very problematic, right? So we believe that this kind of industry is actually backlashing the feminism objectives of like acceptance, especially towards women and LGBTQIA. Notice that this is very well elaborated than both the opening benches. So like what does this mean in like developing countries, right? We believe that this is harming people in developing countries in like three ways. One is women in developing countries actually see repeated portrayal of like ideal body and like ideal characters to be like submissive or like sweet or cute for the higher part of the community, which is men themselves, right? Notice the women in these countries already suffer from so much discrimination. So by attacking the idea of K-pop, we actually point out that their standards shouldn't stand to begin with. But also for men, we believe that in the conservative countries, men are supposed to be masculine, etc. Right? So K-pop spreads out this conservative idea, and even if they're trying to portray these men as having emotions, etc., this is never going to fly in developing countries to begin with. But also like on LGBTQI, we believe that in conservative religious countries, when they see the different portrayals in like this the MV and like the real life, it is gonna hamper their idea of self, right? Second argument on the idea of efficacy, we believe that in two things. One, we want to campaign better alternatives to all the social movement, right? We want to emphasize a formal education as like very important, right? Like contrary to what OG says, a lot of K-pop idols actually opt out of their education to pursue to be trainee, and like to debut. We believe that in developing countries in itself, women education are never prioritized to begin with, right? So instead of letting the portrayals of idols being like larger than life and succeeding, which is like only 1 in a million chance, we want to portray the idea that they should pursue formal education and should pursue their own talents or like skill, etc. Last assertion on this is that we believe that the idea of K-pop is not unachievable on the idea of like women being women, right? Because now suddenly we have a standard of like what an ideal woman should look like and what an ideal performer should be, which should be beautiful and have like certain characteristics. While we believe that K-pop industry in itself is a form of art, right? So women should be able to enjoy this by not thinking that they should fulfill an ideal that's never going to be achieved without hassle. Very tough to propose.
Okay, I'll start my timer first. Okay, so I'm gonna start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Hi, my name is Danuba from UII, and here as the government with, first of all, 4 points of rebuttal coming towards the opposite opening opposition. The first thing on how they said that K-pop is going to create the most innovation compared to like other mechanism. OO's claim is basically based on the progressivity within the industry itself. We believe that this is wrong and not exclusive, to say the least. We believe that the reason why K-pop is trying to be exclusive nowadays is due to the rising inclusivity that starts from the Western industry. So to say that K-pop is going to be more progressive compared to the Western, who initiate this progressivity at the first place, is not making any sense. We also believe that if the Western community do not initiate this kind of movement, then K-pop won't necessarily progress as an active choice due to the homogeneous race surrounding the Korean geographic at the first place. And also, second point on how OO's urgency is necessarily based on look. Notice how OO is basically telling about how look is the most favorable thing to justify the harm of K-pop towards feminism progress. And OO is also saying on how we live in a patriarchal society, then talks about how K-pop industry is going to create more preference. Isn't it exactly about the patriarchal condition on how women should be able to present themselves in the favor of society? Therefore, women needs to fit themselves into the mold that the society has created. That is why OO claims on that is illogical and contradicting themselves, to say the least. And also, they stated about the attempt of inclusivity within K-pop industry. This narrative is based on a countable amount of minority with the abundant stereotypical K-pop idols, ladies and gentlemen. The reason why this narrative will only exist as an attempt is for two basic reasons. A, the conservative people within the Korean society won't necessarily accept the LGBT community. The stockholder, also, furthermore, these people exist as stockholder within the company itself. That is why big company would never be able to release or complete a complete people of minority unless they have some Asian background, like my first speaker has told you. So the furthest idea of inclusivity that opposite side of the house is trying to bring is to be able to be Asian but not Korean. And also, even if there's an existence of Black Korean girl band member or a gay man within the industry itself, it's not gonna fulfill the agenda of feminism. The likelihood of this to happen is to occur on small company, and it generates two outcomes. Either it's only for the marketing, or it's only going to be temporary due to this insufficient amount of funding. Now move on to my extension on how the ideal status quo would look like. As my first speaker has told you, what we want is a progressiveness within feminism and also a change in societal perspective. We're gonna provide a better alternative. We believe that the most powerful thing to achieve first step of feminism is through formal education. However, within the status quo, there's a declining interest of pursuing education due to more alternative in the entertainment businesses such as influencer, or namely K-pop industry itself. That is why by aggressively opposing K-pop, we are going to be able to redirect these people of developing countries to be able to have stronger bargaining point and also cater more people within the feminist movement. By having proper education, we believe that you're going to be able to understand more issues and way to tackle them compared to like K-pop song who only wants to talk about them and bring more awareness to it without bringing any mechanism to resolve it. Even if education fails to bring people to be able to advocate others, it's going to be able to lift themselves. And imagine if this kind of scenario happens to every or even to the list of majority people within the developing country itself, then it's going to be able to solve this problem much quicker anyways. And also compared to K-pop songs who are specified for specific agenda for feminism, so for example like women equality, we believe that formal education will be able to cater more feminist agenda. So, for example, there's never going to be a K-pop song that portrays or movie who address women as the victim of environment, right? Those topics are not interesting to be a topic for entertainment. So we believe that it's only by formal education we can get to be on the list or on the basic of feminism and also on the higher form of feminism at all. Therefore, the role of education as a better mechanism serves better and can include more within feminism agenda for developing countries. Okay, now move on to the comparison. I'm first going to talk about the opposite side of the house. OO wants feminism through K-pop, but they only brought the aspect of look and hard work, which is the biggest problem within the status quo itself. Why? The moment someone through K-pop is noticed, it's more about how they look like. However, look are something that can easily be changed through makeup or surgery. So the idea of tackling feminism or even understanding it as something so superficial just show how messed up their setup is. We have stated to you on how K-pop is very saturated on look, and the rising trend of beauty is creating a never-ending competition that creates more oppression towards women itself. And also, every OO's argument are successfully answered by my first speaker and I, so therefore their whole proposal fails. Talking about the assumption of CO might brings argument on how they might talk about how K-pop industry is at least going to be able to cater a lot of women to be included as a productive member of the society. We think that this is true, but the harm of how this woman is presented goes beyond the idea of how they are going to be as a part of economy. We also believe that the basic premise of feminism, which is to be accepted as woman regardless of your background and also your physics, right? However, the thing of K-pop is that it takes selective requirement of how you're supposed to look. So the very basic is of accepting people regardless of how they are is not going to be fulfilled, to say the least. We also think that the process of being a K-pop idol needs sacrifice of education. So what we have explained on how important the role of education will not be able to be applied in CO's proposal. Also, CO might argue that some K-pop songs are also empowering women. We agree, but this takes a lot of process. Not to be xenophobic, but this is based on language that you need to understand. And take a look on how many people is actually singing the K-pop song without truly understanding what is the true meaning of this song. So to say that it's going to empower more women, we think that it's a very hard process, and it can mislead you to a wrong path of not understanding what this song is trying to explain, to say the least. And also they might argue on how it's going to bring more culture. We think that although it's true, but feminism has the biggest urgency that needs to be tackled down and to acknowledge, like for example, like acknowledging of women, and also on how the woman will never be able to stand equal in the name of law, will define your likelihood to face discrimination is more urgent. Okay, so that is why the government team deserves to win. Now moving on why closing government needs to win compared to like OG. First of all, OG never stated where does this feminist movement is going to be implemented, and why does the hazard is far more important compared to the entertainment value. That is why this debate goes quite blurry, to say the least. OG also said that the moment we oppose this K-pop industry, it's going to spark changes without providing any mechanism. So their analysis process is quite light, to say the least. And also they say that it's going to create more discrimination, when we don't think so. First of all, discrimination already exists far worse within the Western industries, so we don't think on how the likelihood of K-pop industries to create discrimination is going to be much worse. Also, their biggest problem goes to how K-pop is going to set a role model. We think two reasons. First, on how adults are someone who has basic capabilities to choose and also analyze situation. So for the cases of adults, we believe that there's going to be other figures that can provide as a comparison on who should their role model is. Same goes for children who basically has school and also educational books, who can truly see who should be their role model is. That being said, we believe that closing government deserve to win. That is all from me. I raise my case.